Hi, I'm Whitney Espick, the CEO of the MIT Alumni Association, and I hope you enjoy this digital production created for alumni and friends like you.
That was wonderful. Those were two fantastic additions to the day, two fantastic talks. And I want to thank everybody for their continued questions. So we're gonna dive right into those, and we have one question which has stood out for me, which was, why can't I use this technology now? And I think that must have been for you, Dina.
Yeah, so we are actually using it. It's still not a product, so you cannot go to the market and buy it. But we are working particularly with medical doctors and also actually with pharmaceutical company and biotech who are both interested in monitoring the patients to understand disease progression and also to react to health emergencies. So hopefully soon, today only doctors can reach out to us and we can work with them to monitor their patients and use that information to advance the care.
Right. And Tina, you're presumably doing clinical trials. You must be
Absolutely. We in fact take care of people with obstructive sleep apnea, and what you illustrated indeed summarizes their frustration, and it would be wonderful to use devices like this for a whole variety of diseases that we deal with in our realm. And at Massachusetts Eye and Ear, we are focused on everything from the collarbone up.
Right.
Although we do borrow parts of other parts of the body to reconstruct things in our head and neck division. If somebody has mandibular cancer and that has to be removed, then you reconstruct it borrowing a piece of bone from the leg.
Wow.
So indeed, it's very, very exciting what's coming.
Work together.
Yes.
Right. Well, and so somebody's submitted a question which leaps out for me as well as a journalist. Some of the stuff you're working on, Dina, would seem to have privacy implications if it were used in certain ways. And I guess this is a broader issue, concerning any sort of personal data and health data. So what are you doing to sort of safeguard?
Yeah, so of course, privacy is a very important question here because we are monitoring health-related data and we have to be very careful. So what we do is, first we take measures to ensure that the person who is monitored is the one who owns the data. And second, that the data is, whenever it is stored or manipulated, first, it is anonymized. Any information about the person are separated from the data, and both are encrypted and kept separately to ensure security and prevent invasion of privacy or security. So I think the first point is to have the policy, which is what I said, that the patient is the one who owns the data, and he or she can decide who gets access. The second thing is to have the mechanism to mitigate and eliminate certain attacks and work with them.
So countermeasures that you could protect, say your office or something. Tina, do you want to talk about the issue of health patient data and how important it is to sort of protect that? Because there's a big sort of rush to make use of this data, and it's incredibly valuable and useful, but there must be safeguarding, right?
Exactly. And as we have heard multiple times today, chronic diseases are cumulative. And even when we see a patient who comes in with a heart attack and they say, how could that happen to me? And I have never done anything bad, and it was a sudden thing. But if you actually look at their coronary arteries, it wasn't a sudden thing. It was something that was accumulating over time, and then when it reached a critical point and blood flow was sufficiently inhibited, this is when they had a critical event. So in all of medicine, the emphasis is now on early detection and prevention. And when it comes to hearing loss that I talked about, it's a huge public health issue. Now that everybody's walking around with earbuds there is a real concern about the explosion of hearing loss, and people are already talking about it as the diabetes of the 21st century.
Wow.
So with these devices that monitor us, we also have to be aware of what they're doing to us. But the power is in knowledge. And nobody would be doing these things to themselves if they know they're harming them. So for example, with the smoking cessation campaign, it was a huge educational campaign. And when people realize that it's bad for their health and no longer a sign of being cool and fitting in, that really resulted in great progress in this country.
Right.
And we yet have to do that on the hearing front.
Right. Well, so that sort of connects to a question that was very popular earlier, and I think is an important one, which was about the governance of emerging technologies, and particularly AI. We've seen other governments around the world pour huge amounts of money into AI and have a set of principles. And it seems like, especially in the health sector, but across the board, there's good reason to think that we need to maybe have smart policies around artificial intelligence and related technologies. What would you think about that? Dina, you're nodding.
So, I mean, in general, it's very good to have policies that protect the privacy of any user data, whether health data or and whether with AI or without AI. I think it's always a balancing act, because particularly when government try to do it, and when government try to deal with new technology, it's a balancing act between the protection that we intend to provide to the user and the patient, and also not to do mistakes, because it's a new technology, so it could possibly that the misguided government officials can sometimes stifle innovations. So it requires a lot of smartness and knowledge to do the right thing and to manage that balance.
It's a balancing act, right? I feel like the technologists here at MIT can actually do a great service by helping inform some of the policy.
Definitely.
And regulations are very different in the medical field, and this is what we have to be aware of, because even when talking about robotics, if you're talking about industrial robotics, you have the luxury of making a mistake and learning from it and modifying your product and going back in. You don't have that luxury in medicine, because if the first robot that you use in a living human kills somebody, that will halt progress for quite a few years. And we have seen that happen with gene therapy. So when talking about people, it's very different than when talking about machines alone.
And similar situation with self-driving cars right now. There's sort of concern. So a popular question here is about the use of machine learning in ICU hospital settings, and someone's asking if that could. Someone's saying, so there's often alarm fatigue in those situations. Is your technology helping with that? And are there specific trials going on of using machine learning to help with collect all the data in an ICU?
We are very actively interested in that. Right next to Massachusetts General Hospital, we are a separate hospital, but we are part of the Partners Healthcare System. So indeed, we share lots of patients, because interestingly enough, hearing loss can be the first sign of many of these diseases that we are talking about, including neurodegenerative disease and even cardiovascular disease. The auditory system is so incredibly sensitive. So indeed, these intensive care units are generating huge amounts of data, and we are only beginning to understand what they mean. It's an incredibly ripe area for students in the audience to pursue, because it's not only fun, but it's really meaningful. It could quite literally change people's lives.
Absolutely, yeah. I was also very excited by the examples you gave of the real-time translation tech. I've been traveling to China a little bit, and I've tried out like some of the handheld things, but can you actually buy those things that go in your ear?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. It's early, and they're being developed, but this is one of the very active areas, because we have seen rise and fall of lots of other companies that focused on biometric data alone, but this is actually a practical thing, immediately practical.
And so more generally, do you think, besides helping people with hearing loss, we might find that your technology just could augment people who hear normally, so you can hear much better? You have somebody, a voice in your ear helping you during your conversation?
It's a very interesting thought, but we also have an experiment of nature. We know what happens when people hear too well. it really drives them crazy. And so this is a phenomenon, it's called a superior semicircular canal dehiscence, which is a mouthful, but all it means is that the bone over one of the balance canals is missing, so that these people can hear their eyeballs moving, they can hear their breathing rate, they can hear their footsteps. When they're taking a shower, the drops that fall on their head are deafening. So in fact, they come to us because they can't live with that. They'd rather be deaf than have that issue. So we have to learn from nature and do the right thing, where we can augment things that are helpful, but not go overboard.
That's amazing. I don't ever want to hear my eyeballs move. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. So Dina, some people were curious about false positives and how accurate your system is. So if you jump down on your bed, does the system think you've fallen over and sound the alarm, or can you distinguish that sort of thing?
Yeah, so actually when we started working on falls, cats were a big deal because cats jump. So it's like any system. So you teach it, and you can use some of the false positive and the false negative example that you see during the training and the later testing to actually retrain. And now we have a cat filter.
Oh, you do? You have a cat filter? Wow. Typical cats. Another question that was popular earlier, which I think is worth circling back to, is about the idea of data and private industry data. Obviously, data is incredibly important for AI. And I'm wondering, for both of you, are there data sources that you would love to have access to, either from private industry or just government data or whatever?
Yeah, so actually you keep hearing this, data is the new oil, basically.
Right.
So data is very important. Now, of course, as experts, computer scientists, experts on machine learning, people in my department and myself would love to get access more to medical data, because on one hand, allows us to use our expertise to extract more semantics and meaning from that data that we perceive to be useful and can help the doctors. On the other hand, it also can guide, like in the case that, for example, the sleep that I showed you. So we can learn how to say that this person now is in the rapid eye movement stage versus the deep sleep stage. But to do that, actually what we did, we trained and used the ground truth from something called PSG, which is what you use in sleep lab. So we had to have access to that data so that we can train. So data is very important and very useful, both to operate on that data and to guide new digital biomarkers and new digital resources. But of course, the privacy issue is always something that has to be taken into account.
I think we have a perfect collaborative project going forward. We actually have so much data that we don't know what to deal with. Yeah. So this is where AI algorithms would be incredibly helpful. And for example, we have a database that includes 500,000 audiograms from patients followed over 20 years, which is really a dream come true for many computational people. And I think these data telling us things that we don't even know, and hopefully will improve lives of our patients we are taking care of today.
Well, so on that topic, a gentleman came up during the break and asked, I promised to relay his question, about the challenges of software engineering in the age of AI. And I wonder if you can share any insights on that. So the idea of maintaining code and relying on these vast data sets, is it a kind of paradigm shift, or is it just a continuation of the challenges that have existed previously? Dina, maybe you have some thoughts.
So I think over time, I mean, I don't want to say that it's a paradigm shift. I mean, in a sense, we deal with large data. We started doing that maybe about, I don't know, like 7-8 years ago when the revolution of big data arrived. So nowadays, there is a general understanding of how do you deal with a cloud system with operating on large data in the cloud. Now, of course, there are other issues when you are saying this is medical data and it has to be managed in some specific way. Sometimes you have extra, apart from HIPAA and all of that stuff, sometimes you can't move the medical data to the cloud. So there are additional constraints. But I wouldn't call it a paradigm shift, or at least if that shift exists, it is something that happened gradually. And by now, on the cloud, how to operate on large data, there is a general understanding. Okay. There are advances that are happening every day, but a general understanding exists.
It's interesting to put it in a historical perspective. And Henry Kissinger, who we all know, and he was a professor at Harvard, and he's a historian. And I was amazed to read his editorial on AI. He's now 93 or 94, so clearly his brain works well. And he's commenting from a historical perspective on how things have changed. And in the Enlightenment age, it was a philosophy, a guiding philosophy that was then spread through technology. And in this era of big data, it's a domineering technology in search of a guiding philosophy. Right. So it's very interesting, the data focus that we are now talking about.
That's fascinating. I thought it was great that you mentioned causal inference as such an important thing. And maybe you could talk a little bit more about that.
Exactly. So causal inference is of utmost importance when taking care of people, because we don't want to repeat a mistake. So when we do during our morbidity and mortality rounds and deconstruct what happened, it's not meant to be punitive in any way, but a learning experience so that we can move forward. And with some of these AI algorithms, it's not apparent. It's not apparent how they arrived at a conclusion and whether they would arrive at the same conclusion again given the same data. So that transparency and causality is really critical before this can be widely used in medicine.
Right. I know that was a related question here was whether what you guys thought about researching the sort of cutting edge of the deep learning algorithms out there. And I know that some people, for example, at the Center for Brains, Minds and Machines, Tommaso Poggio and so on, are doing very, very cutting edge research on the fundamental nature of those algorithms. I think it's really great that you guys are aware of that and are thinking about that in terms of implementing things. So that question of opacity seems like a fundamentally important one. It also brings me to one thing that I was wondering is how resistant doctors are, generally speaking, because in the past I think they've not been always receptive to things like expert systems, for example. But what's your experience of that?
Well, surgeons love to play with toys. That's what we do, and we like to tinker. And so, in fact, when it comes to technology, that's actually what's been driving medical progress. Science has been critical and has done so much, but the impact of science takes usually many more years, or even more than a decade, to see in medical realm. But technology can quite literally transform what we do. And we have numerous examples. And for example, we are hoping that AI would make as much or more of an impact than the introduction of a microscope did in the operating room. And incidentally, that was done by ear surgeons more than a century ago. So bringing a new tool in the operating room allowed us to do things that were unthinkable before. Even when we think of anesthesia, the birth of anesthesia here in Boston, when it was the first public demonstration of the use of ether at Mass General Hospital. But when that was demonstrated that it works, it really brought a new field in existence, the field of anesthesiology, but really disrupted surgery completely. So we like these algorithms. We hope that they can be useful, but before we are allowed to use them in people, we have to make sure that we have that transparency. And because we believe in it, that's why we have to be so careful about the first application.
Mm-hmm. So let me give you the computer scientist perspective. So from my experience, actually, is slightly different from Tina's experience. I actually think that doctors there are two entities in the healthcare system, or multiple at least. So there are the doctors, and doctors are reluctant to use technology, not all doctors. So my experience is that with doctors, it's really very dependent on the individual. Some doctors have some engineering background, and actually they love playing with toys and just like it brings all the engineering that they learned, and those are wonderful, and they are very much the right people to collaborate with if you are a computer scientist. Some others are very reluctant because it's very foreign to them. It's not the way they think. It's not, there is like a difference, big difference in language even. I mean, you are not talking the same thing. But I think more than doctors always, at least always care about their patients and want to use the best for their patients. But there is also the structure of the healthcare system that sometimes stands in the way. A lot of bureaucracy that is very limiting, I think, to innovation.
Yeah, maybe some opportunities to innovate around that as well, hopefully.
Yes.
So I've been to a sleep clinic and been hooked up with that stuff. I think I got about 2 minutes sleep. One person was asking whether you could do things like actually treat apnea wirelessly, or maybe you could talk about, you know, how technology will make it at least less like your Darth Vader wearing something.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can't treat apnea wirelessly, but I can tell you, for example, about other things that you could potentially react to it. So in Parkinson patients tend to fall, and they shuffle, and then the fall comes. But if you detect that, if you detect the shuffling, and you either play with the lighting or say something to them, like in the clinic, the doctor can say, "Oh, Mr. Smith, take bigger steps," and then the person will not fall. So you can react and use the information to improve the health, not just to detect stuff.
Right. Well, so one final question here, which I think is a good one to end on. Someone was asking how you can combat the stigma of care, of elder care or care generally. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how technology might help with that. That does seem like an exciting possibility.
Absolutely. And the comparison between glasses and hearing aids is not a trivial one, because glasses can restore vision back to normal, but lots of hearing aids cannot, and it's for a reason. It's not that you just need amplification. The ear is a nonlinear organ, and you have these neurons that are tuned to very specific frequencies, so they form these tuning curves. But if that very sharp specificity is gone because of age-related insult or noise exposure, then all of a sudden, you can have neurons from a nearby frequency responding at frequencies that they normally wouldn't at a lower sound level. So the issue is that if you have somebody come in with hearing loss at 2 kilohertz, and you are just trying to amplify frequencies at 2 kilohertz, that may not work, because that area of the cochlea may be dead altogether. So that's a huge limitation, because the ear is not just a linear amplifier. So we do hope that with the tools that we and others are developing, we'll have a better insight into what's going on, so that we can address the problem head on. But what we do know is that the brain plays a huge importance. And we know that, for example, from cochlear implants, the fact that these devices even work is astounding, because you are replacing 30,000 neurons that exist in a human auditory nerve with up to 22 electrodes. And the fact that somebody can understand speech and even carry a conversation directly on the phone is huge. So we need more medical successes to eliminate some of that stigma, and that's why glasses don't have that stigma anymore. Right. So we need better devices, better hearing aids, and better therapies that are biologically related, right. And the recognition that being old is being wise.
Right, absolutely. It's a case in point, yes. Dina, do you want to say something quickly about this? Your work is very relevant to this as well.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that could help eliminate the stigma, or at least alleviate it, is enabling people to live a safe and healthy life and continue to live independently and without depending on other people, without feeling that they are needy and that they are going back to becoming children. And if technology can provide that support to them so that they can continue being confident, living in their home, doing the stuff that they like to do, that helps. And this is actually one of the key motivations for us, is to provide technology that will disappear into the environment, that would not cause a person to have to wear something to say, oh, I need that technology, and would just help people feel more confident about living their normal life.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed this. Thank you for your questions. Thanks, guys. Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. And for more information on how to connect with the MIT Alumni Association, please visit our website.